Now you can tell us something about your relation to this house, Jim.
I'm Jim Olson, and my bestefar, my father's father, John Olson Sandbakken, was born where this house stands here at Sandbakken in Vinstra, Norway. He left for America in about 1881 and became a farmer in South Dakota.
Grandfather, he left for South Dakota. When
He
was
left for South Dakota in about 1881. He went to Oslo and sailed on the ship the Angelo to Hull, England, and then by railroad to Liverpool. And I have not found the ship's list that indicates what ship he sailed to Quebec on. And his destination was Benson, Minnesota, and he spent some time in Minnesota before he came to South Dakota and became a farmer. He married my grandmother in 1903 at the Frone Lutheran Church in Liberty Township in Day County, South Dakota. And he was the father of 8 children, and in 1916, before the youngest child was born, he was killed in an accident with a team of horses and a wagon. And it became a difficult life for the children and for my grandmother, but there are several descendants of John Olson Sandbakken from that time.
Yes. Can you tell something about the family he left here at Øvre Sandbakken?
I'm not quite sure I can tell the story in order, but my grandfather had been working as a servant or worker at the Bronvold farm, and I found it very interesting that on the ship that he left from New York to England, there was another John Olson Sandbakken from Vogel that was on the ship. But my grandfather had 2 sisters. Karen Sandbakken was the youngest child in that family, and she died in 1895, I believe that is correct. And the other sister, Goru, had married and had several children. She was living on Small Ronningen in Sorfron when her husband died. And then my great-grandfather, Ole Nelson Sandbakken, turned the farm over to Goru and her children, but the oldest son, Ole, emigrated to America, and then a few years later, the family emigrated in 1903, Goru and her son Redvold, and a daughter Mari and a son Peter, and they came to my grandfather in South Dakota, and I think Goru intended to become my grandfather's housekeeper, but my grandfather was getting ready to marry my grandmother, Marit Ivar's daughter, Nybakken, so Goru had to find other employment. She married again in Norway, but soon separated from her husband, and Guru and her son Peter went out to Montana, where she homesteaded a farm.
You've been here many times, Jim. When was the first time you came to Øvre Sandbakken to...
I came here to Vinstra in 1960. I had been traveling in Europe before that summer and wanted to find information about my grandmother's family, and I borrowed a bicycle from a maid in the Amundsen Hotel where I was staying, and I pedaled down to Sorfron, and I found my grandmother's birthplace of Sandbakken, and I went down the mountain further to the Sorfron church, and while I was in the church I met a woman who, to my surprise, was my fourth cousin, and that woman was Mabel Haga, Paul's mother, and she invited me to home here to have dinner and meet Paul and other members of the family. And we took a photograph with the bicycle that I borrowed that I needed to return to the maid at the hotel. And Ola and Paul and I have known each other from that time.
Oh.
So.
Yes, that's a long time and
Yes.
a good story. Thank you, Jim. Det spørs om vi skulle ta opp at dette bildet fra 1960. Da kan Elisabeth ta bilde, eller filme oss når vi stiller oss opp. Nå det opptak altså. Ja. Da går vi hit.
Da går vi hit. Elisabeth recording now. Our movement.
Yes.
Ja.
There you are. That's it.
Vi har luskufte, vet jeg, men den tror jeg ikke eksisterer lenger.
Og jeg det speakersvas.
Ja.
Good.
Exactly like it was.
Oh. Yes, I have.